Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today we are going to be exploring the Pelta for Star Wars Armada for the Rebellion. This comes in two varieties. We're going to take a look at both. We're going to look at the titles and look at some build ideas for this ship. However, we're not going to be talking about the Rebellion's version of the Pelta, which is otherwise known as the Phoenix Home expansion. Those versions of the Pelta are slightly different in that they have been aged over time and also retrofitted for the Rebellion. So we're really going to be focusing on the Clone Wars era Republic version of the Pelta. And in this video, we'll do that breakdown. Also, a little bit of information if you're new here or there's still time left to enter to win the giveaways. We've got the 12 Days of Life Day and that lightsaber giveaway. To enter to win any of those, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. And if you don't win, don't worry, we have giveaways going on all the time. Also, patrons are going to win anything that does not roll over, basically doesn't get claimed. All that stuff will roll over into Patreon. There's more details on the giveaways on Crabbok.com if you want to get all of that. But basically, if you just have to leave a comment and be a subscriber. It's as simple as that. With all that being said, if you want to check out the links in the description below to get more information, check that out. Join the Discord, all of that good stuff. It's all down there. Let's go ahead and dive into the Pelta. So for the Clone Wars era of the Pelta, it does come in two different versions here. We've got the Transport Frigate and the Medical Frigate, and they each have 5 hull. It's a 5 hull ship on a small base. It's a small base ship, so it's kind of like almost a small to medium. We don't see too many small ships with 5 hull. The ones that do tend to be a little bit tankier, a little bit more expensive also. Now, this one is on the cheaper side with the Transport Frigate coming in at only 45 points, where the Medical Frigate is going to be 49. So a little more expensive there, but both under 50 points, which makes it kind of tanky and also kind of cheap. And due to the ways that you can build this, it can also perform a couple of different roles. So that much is nice. For defense tokens, this particular ship has a brace, which is uncommon on a small ship, so it's very welcome to see that, especially with the 5 hull and the 3 shields in the front. It also has an evade and a redirect. So it's really going to be able to try to make itself last, similar to the hard sell for the Separatists and, a handful of other ships that maybe, would seem kind of explodey at first sight. This one actually has a little bit of survivability packed into it, and it's going to help it last longer into your games. Now, it is a slow ship. It is only speed 2 capable, but it does have respective maneuverability for speeds 1 and 2, with 2 clicks on the 1 and a click on each of the 1 and 2 when at speed 2. It is a 2-command ship, which is common for most of the tankier versions of the small ships. It does have 4 engineering, which is definitely uncommon for the small ships as well. And it has either 1 or 2 squadrons, depending on which version you take, or transport or medical, respectively. We'll break down the differences here in a little bit more. It has 3 shields in the front, 2 shields on the side, 1 shield in the rear, and basically 2 red in the front for both types, 2 red in the rear for both types, and a red on the side for both types, and you're going to be swapping out a blue or a black, depending on how you want to build this thing. Now, as far as the ship's profile itself, again, it is on a small ship's base. It's going to allow it to basically take good advantage of that evade, since evade has some extra new rules in the 1.5 rule set of Armada. Evade has gotten improved quite a bit. It's going to help this ship stay alive a little bit more. Also going to help prevent it from bumping as much, since smaller ships tend to be easier to fit than larger ships and sometimes easier to dodge obstacles, but that much is going to be limited by its fact that it only can go speed 2, so it's not going to be the fastest ship, but there's ways to work with that. As far as the arcs are pretty standard. Slightly larger front arc on this ship, which is good because its front arc is its most powerful firepower arc. Although, however, you don't usually take this ship for the firepower. The other thing that's good about the front arc being a little bit larger is that it does start out with the most shields, coming in at 3 shields right away. So hopefully, most of your opponent's shots will end up impacting on the front arc, and hopefully be mitigated as well as possible. Now, let's talk about the 2 different versions of this ship. I want to talk about the Pelta Transport Frigate first. This is the cheaper version. This is also the black die version. This version is a little bit better at dealing with squadrons in that it's going to have a nice extra squadron die. So it has a black and a blue for its anti-squadron armament, otherwise known as its flak. It's not going to be particularly great at commanding squadrons on its own, though, because it has the squadron value of only 1. Now for upgrades, this one does have a defensive retrofit, which again isn't usually taken or not super common on small ships, but does give you some interesting options for a ship like this. We also have the fleet support and the support officer, or the support team, as well as the regular officer. So we have a lot of different ways that this one can support your fleet, as well as potentially even be a flagship if you're running some kind of multiple small units, if you're running a lot of small ships, which doesn't really seem as viable right now, but perhaps someday in the future, if we get more Clone Wars era ships for Star Wars Armada, like Architons, for example, this could make a cheaper and survivable flagship, which is definitely an option. And sometimes you just want to do that anyway, especially if your bigger ships want to get black dice range, get up close and personal, and you want to keep your flagship safe in the back. Now, the medical frigate is going to see a few changes. We are going to increase our cost a little bit to 49 points, but we'll also upgrade all the black dice on our both sides and in our front up to blue. So this is going to give this a little bit longer range punching power, so it's going to have a little more anti-ship dice. But it does lose out on the anti-squadron dice. The medical frigate only has a single blue, so not necessarily the best at taking flak shots. Now, this particular version does also have an increased squadron capability of up to 2, which makes it a good kind of mediocre carrier, considering some of the other things that you can do with this ship. We do have fleet support as well as here, so both of these can potentially be run as a bomber command center or other things like that. We also have the support team and officer like we do on the other version, but in this one we'd lose the defensive retrofit and instead gain an offensive retrofit. An offensive retrofit can be used for a lot of different things, whether it's extending your blue dice out to long range or potentially helping you be a better carrier, which is what I tend to think of when I think of the medical frigate. I think of it more in a carrier role, considering that offensive retrofit deals a lot with squadron commands, and this version also has the higher squadron value. Now, there are 2 titles available for the Pelta, for the Galactic Republic. We have the FB-88, which is going to come in at 4 points, and it's going to say, before you reveal a command, you may discard your top command dial. Now, this one is very, very interesting, because what this does is extremely powerful. It gives you a tremendous amount of control over what command you choose to reveal, because while normally small ships tend to have a command value of 1, you're picking that one command at the start of the round. But in the case of FB-88, you already have something picked, so you can always just choose a different command. Like, I'm probably going to want concentrate fire, but just in case I don't, let me also put a nav in there, or an engineer, or a squadron, or something like that. And you put that as your bottom dial, and now once it's time to activate, you have a choice. So you actually have a choice of 2, still kind of with the feel of a Command 1 type of ship. And this also still keeps your command value at 2, so you can still have 2 defense token or command tokens without being limited by that. So it's actually an incredible title, especially for the points and for what it does, bringing a Command 2 ship to feel like a Command 0.5 from a certain point of view. Now, the TB-73 title costs a little bit more. It's 5 points, but this one is just simple and excellent. After you deploy, gain 1 additional evade defense token. Evade is a much improved token. This wouldn't have been quite as good in maybe a year or 2 ago, but since we've gotten an updated rule set for Armada that expands the use of the evade token to allow it to both work at close range and also to be able to be discarded to cancel 1 additional die or affect 1 additional die when a larger size ship is attacking you, it makes evades extremely valuable, and being able to gain an additional one, not swap, but just gain an additional one, brings you up to 4 defense tokens, and really gives you some great survivability. So I think if you are planning on putting a lot of points on a Pelta and making it a high value target, or potentially even making it a flagship if you want, TB-73 can be a fantastic title for that option. Now, some ways you might run a Pelta are going to be like, maybe you want it to be a little bit supportive by taking advantage of the support teams. I happen to like projection experts on an engineering 4 ship. Jamming field is another option if you're not trying to activate squadrons specifically, but you do want to move in there to protect your squadrons after they've gone for another ship. With something like jamming field, although jamming field isn't taken very often, but it can be a little bit niche and a little bit unexpected. Maybe you want to potentially have this ship run reactive gunnery as its defensive retrofit, since it does actually have 2 red dice in its rear printed arc. It does not, it's one of the few Clone Wars ships that does not have a salvo, and so why not, consider putting a salvo ability on a ship that can salvo just as good as most other ships in the game. So I think, at least at long range. So I think that that's pretty cool, and it might be an unexpected option that people won't think of that a Pelta is getting ready to shoot them back with 2 red dice, which can be pretty fun. Maybe another way to run a medical frigate, taking advantage of the offensive retrofit, and some of the other upgrades are to make this one a little bit of an aggro machine to mess with your opponents. Phylon Q7 tractor beams are always annoying, and not that many people run them, because a lot of times when you are thinking of running an offensive retrofit, a lot of times you tend to run something that's helping squadrons. But Phylon Q7s can really mess with ships, especially ships that are trying to go fast. Especially ships that are trying to evade the rest of your ship's firing arcs. You combine that with slicer tools, then you kind of have a jerk mobile, which can maybe say, oh, were you going to nav? Well, no, you're not, and also I'm going to slow you down. So now you're stuck going slower, and you're stuck doing a command that you didn't want to do. And now maybe my Venator can get you at close range. You're not going to be able to get out of his front arc or something like that. So very fun. Plus, Engine Text gives you makes up for the fact that you've only got speed 2. And so if you're doing some nav commands, then now all of a sudden, you go from kind of slow speed, kind of slower speed, to, hey, I'm speed 3 with some pretty good maneuverability. So I think Engine Text is a real good option for a lot of versions of the Pelta. Now, let's say you were thinking of running TB73 and you wanted to make this your flagship. We have a couple of option ideas here. Now, if you are thinking of running a flagship, I do like the idea of Auxiliary Shields Team over here. The Auxiliary Shields Team is going to allow you to start off with an engineering command and just get 2 more shields on each of your sides, especially considering that you have an engineering value of 4 right now. You've got the ability to do this stuff right away without much problem. So I think that that's super cool, and definitely works well for a flagship. We got parts resupply, so you can hand out some engineering tokens. You can give yourself one too. It's also going to work to help keep you tanky, help keep you alive. Of course, TB73 is going to work with that too. Reinforced blast doors for if you do end up taking some damage, you can be like, no. We're going to repair all of that damage. And then, of course, we've got Barris. You can, if for whatever reason, they get behind you, you can be like, no, you're shooting my front. Or you're shooting one of my sides, even if they get on the other side of you. And I think she works well with Auxiliary Shields Team, too, because if you're able to power up and I've got 3, and you get around me and you're going to be shooting the weaker side, I can just be like, nope, boom. It's going to this other side, and that kind of helps mitigate things like XI7 as well. And then for FB88, you want to run a really nice squadron version. This is kind of the squadron kind of setup that I think I would want to run. And I think this one's going to work really well with Yularen. I think Yularen is probably the best commander all around for the Pelta, because it can do some squadrons and has great engineering value. He doesn't have to necessarily be on this ship, but it works really well in a Yularen fleet. And so for this one, we have Clone Commander Wolf, since he is going to be helping squadrons. Again, he doesn't have to necessarily be on this ship. You might have him somewhere else, but he works well on this ship. If you are going to have this as your flagship, I'd still say for this version also consider the Auxiliary Shields Team. You definitely want your flagship to stay alive. You also want your Bomber Command Center to stay alive. It's just great to be able to have options for Bomber Command Center on a ship other than like the Radiant 7, which can't do much else. Here, this can be a Bomber Command Center that also activates squadrons and does a lot more, so that much is good. And again, offensive retrofit, let's do expanded hangar bay. Now all of a sudden we can activate 3 squadrons. Commander Wolf gets a little bit more activation ability out of all of that, and then Admiral Yularen is going to let us do all kinds of stuff. If we happen to have the tokens already, now we're going to be able to activate even more. On top of that, we can also use our excellent engineering value of 4 to repair squadrons. So again, he doesn't have to be on this particular ship, but like I feel like the Pelta class medical frigate is the version that was built for a Yularen fleet, because it's got so much fantastic ability and synergy that it can work very well And that's kind of a look at the Pelta. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you might consider building a Pelta, and maybe you like some of the ideas that I have. Maybe you don't like some of the ideas that I have. Let me know. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this all possible. So thank you for all of your support. I will talk to you guys later. And as always, have a great day.